If you ever wonder what I do before my videos start, this is pretty much it. I play with my hair until it's just the way I want it. You know, since I've cut it, it seems a lot healthier than it was when it was super long. Anyway, I'm going to do this Book of Mormon reading super early. I mean, you're still going to see this on Monday, but today is actually Friday night at 9:20. Partly I'm doing this because I feel impressed to do it early. Maybe something's going to come up on Monday, or I don't know, but I want to make sure I get this video done. And partly also because I'm putting off doing my homework. But it's not super hard, so I will hopefully get it knocked out right after this, but before midnight. Even though it's due tomorrow at midnight. Or, I'm sorry, tomorrow at 11:59. Alright. So before I begin, if I hit pause and say a prayer, ask for discernment, ask for tacos, ask for anything you think you might need, anything you know you might need, and anything that potentially you don't realize you need, but you do need, because God knows better. Also, pray for people in need, pray for your enemies, and your family, and yeah. If you want to follow along online, there's a link in the description you can use to do that with, via lds.org. There are also links in the description you can use to download the Gospel Library app for your Windows, Android, or iOS device. And there's also a link you can use to request your own physical copy of the Book of Mormon, unlike this one. And of course, if you follow the link to request one, 2 missionaries, possibly elders, possibly sisters, will bring you a copy of the Book of Mormon and try to set up an appointment to discuss it with you, and so on and so forth. But, as cool as that is, if you would rather get one from me and have my testimony written on the inside cover or the outside cover between the blank, well, in the blank spaces between the text, or maybe here, or maybe here, or back here, send me an email. Truthaboutwaffles@gmail.com. No, thetruthaboutwaffles@gmail.com. Not just truth. I don't know where that will go. And I'll send you one on my dime, and I'll write my testimony on the inside cover, outside cover, anywhere there's available space. And I'll send it to you on my dime. So I can also do it in pretty much any language you like. Provide the copy that is, not write my testimony. There's only so many languages I can write in. Really, it's just like 2. The others I speak a little bit, kind of, sort of, poorly. And, alright, this is going on too long. But I can definitely get my testimony translated for you and write it for you. If anything's confusing or if anything jumps out at you, write it down and then pray about it and then rewatch this video, or, you know, ask a missionary, ask me, you know. And as I've offered before, if you want to analyze a conference talk, hit me up and tell me the talk you want to go over, and I'll analyze it with you. Okay, enough of that. It's only been 3.5 minutes. 3rd Nephi, chapter 4. And it came to pass that in the latter end of the 18th year, those armies of robbers had prepared for battle, and began to come down and to sally forth from the hills, and out of the mountains, and the wilderness, and their strongholds, and their secret places, and began to take possession of the lands, both which were in the land south, and which were in the land north, and began to take possession of all the lands which had been deserted by the Nephites, and the cities which had been left desolate. But behold, there were no wild beasts, nor game, in those lands, which had been deserted by the Nephites, and there was no game for the robbers, save it were in the wilderness. And the robbers could not exist, save it were in the wilderness. For the want of food, for the Nephites had left their lands desolate, and had gathered their flocks, and their herds, and all their substance, and they were in one body. Therefore, there was no chance for the robbers to plunder and to obtain food, save it were to come up in open battle against the Nephites. And the Nephites, being in one body, having so great a number, and having reserved for themselves provisions, and horses, and cattle, and flocks of every kind, that they might subsist for the space of 7 years, in the which time they did hope to destroy the robbers, from off the face of the land, and thus the 18th year did pass away. So I know I normally don't do this, but this, I just saw something in here that was really cool. So something that we're told to do is to have like food storage, and I mean this is food storage like right here. I don't know if I can say that because I'm supposed to analyze. Forget I said that. In fact, go back, reread verse 4 and figure it out for yourself. And it came to pass that in the 19th year, I forgot how to say this, Gideonhi, we're going to go with Gideonhi, found that it was expedient that he should go up to battle against the Nephites. For there was no way that they could subsist, save it were to plunder and rob and murder. And they durst not spread themselves upon the face of the land, insomuch that they could raise grain, lest the Nephites should come upon them and slay them. Therefore Gideonhi gave commandments unto his armies, that in this year they should go up to battle against the Nephites. And it came to pass that they did come up to battle, and it was in the 6th month. And behold, great and terrible was the day that they did come up to battle. And they were girded about after the manner of robbers, and they had a lambskin about their loins. And they were dyed in blood, and their heads were shorn, and they had head plates upon them. And great and terrible was the appearance of the armies of Gideonhi, because of their armor, and because of their being dyed in blood. And it came to pass that the armies of the Nephites, when they saw the appearance of the army of Gideonhi, had all fallen to the earth, and did lift their cries to the Lord their God, that he would spare them and deliver them out of the hands of their enemies. And it came to pass that when the armies of the Gideonhi saw this, they began to shout with a loud voice, because of their joy, for they had supposed that the Nephites had fallen with fear, because of the terror of their armies. But in this thing they were disappointed, behold. You know, there's so many for beholds that I just thought that was there, and it naturally came out. But no, for the Nephites did not fear them, but they did fear their God, and did supplicate him. There's something on my page, I couldn't read that. Supplicate him for protection. Therefore, when the armies of Gideonhi did rush upon them, they were prepared to meet them. Yea, in the strength of the Lord they did receive them. And the battle commenced in this 6th month. And great and terrible was the battle thereof. Yea, great and terrible was the slaughter thereof. Insomuch that there never was known so great a slaughter among all the people of Lehi, since he left Jerusalem. And notwithstanding the threatenings and the oaths which Gideonhi had made, behold, the Nephites did beat them, insomuch that they did fall back from before them. And it came to pass that Gideonhi commanded that his armies should pursue them as far as the borders of the wilderness, and that they should not spare any that should fall into their hands by the way. And thus they did pursue them, and did slay them to the borders of the wilderness, even until they had fulfilled the commandment of Gideonhi. No, Gidgidoni. Oh, it was Gidgidoni. Too many G names. Sorry, guys. And it came to pass that Gideonhi, who had stood and fought with boldness, was pursued as he fled. And being weary because of his much fighting, he was overtaken and slain. And thus was the end of Gideonhi, the robber. And it came to pass that the armies of the Nephites did return again to their place of security. And it came to pass that this 19th year did pass away. And the robbers did not come again to battle, neither did they come again in the 20th year. And in the 21st year they did not come upon to battle. But they came upon all sides to lay siege round about the people of Nephi. For they did suppose that if they should cut off the people of Nephi from their lands, and should hem them in on every side, and if they should cut them off from all their outward privileges, that they could cause them to yield themselves up according to their wishes. Now, they had appointed unto themselves another leader, whose name was Zemnariah. I'm pretty sure. They did cause that this siege should take place, but behold, this was an advantage to the Nephites, for it was impossible for the robbers to lay siege sufficiently long to have any effect upon the Nephites, because of their much provision which they had laid up in store. And because of the scantness of provisions, or scantiness, I think it's scantiness. For behold, they had nothing save it were meat for their subsistence, which meat they did obtain in the wilderness. And it came to pass that the wild game became scarce in the wilderness, insomuch that the robbers were about to perish with hunger. And the Nephites were continually marching out by day and by night, and falling upon their armies, and cutting them off by thousands, and by tens of thousands. And thus it became the desire of the people of Zemnariah to withdraw from their design, because of the great destruction which came upon them by night and by day. And it came to pass that Zemnariah did give command unto his people that they should withdraw themselves from the siege, and march into the furthermost parts of the land northward. And now, Gideoni, being aware of their design, and knowing of their weakness because of the want of food, and the great slaughter which had been made among them, therefore he did send out his armies in the night time, and did cut off the way of their retreat, and did place his armies in the way of their retreat. And they did do in the night time. And this did they do in the night time, and got on their march beyond the robbers, so that on the morrow, when the robbers began their march, they were met by the armies of the Nephites, both in their front and in their rear. And the robbers who were on the south were also cut off in their places of retreat. And all these things were done by command of Gideoni. And there were many thousands who did yield themselves up prisoners unto the Nephites, and the remainder of them were slain. And their leader, Zemnariah, was taken and hanged upon a tree, yea, even upon the top thereof, until he was dead. And when they had hanged him until he was dead, they did fell the tree to the earth. They did cry with a loud voice, saying, May the Lord preserve his people in righteousness and in holiness of heart, that they may cause to be felled to the earth all who shall seek to slay them, because of power and secret combinations, even as this man hath been felled to the earth. And they did rejoice, and cry again with one voice, saying, May the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob protect this people in righteousness, so long as they shall call on the name of their God for protection. And it came to pass that they did break forth. They did not, but they did. Break forth, all as one, in singing and praising their God for the great thing which he had done for them, in preserving them from falling into the hands of their enemies. Yea, they did cry, Hosanna to the Most High God. And they did cry, Blessed be the name of the Lord God Almighty, the Most High God. And their hearts were swollen with joy, unto the gushing out of many tears, because of the great goodness of God in delivering them out of the hands of their enemies. And they knew it was because of their repentance and their humility that they had been delivered from an everlasting destruction. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. I might post a video before this one, which I guess you would know that already, but FYI from the future.